guys, I'm Carmen Woodland, your host of the Myo Minute, and I'm grateful that you're watching this episode. If I'm new to you, let me introduce myself and tell you why I'm qualified to be talking with you today. I'm the owner of Integrative Myofunctional Therapy Center for Whole Health and Education. That's a mouthful. I'm a myofunctional therapist. I have a large online global practice, but I'm also a speaker, a writer, a trainer, a mentor, an airway and wellness advocate, as well as your myofunctional educator extraordinaire. I have communities across many social media platforms, and this year, my team and I are really focused on providing more value and educational material to you via the YouTube channel. So in this video, I am going to be talking about 3 ways that you can stop mouth breathing. So these steps aren't steps that you can just jump right in and start changing your habits, but these are the first 3 steps that you are going to need to do before you can start implementing that nasal breathing habit. So for the first one is I need you to figure out if you can nasal breathe. So I always teach this to my clients. If you can nasal breathe for 1 minute, you can nasal breathe for life. But determining if you can nasal breathe, that's the important thing. So when you're taking those 10 nasal breaths, I'm looking for things like, do you have shallow thoracic breathing? Meaning, are your shoulders moving? Are your eyeballs big? Are your nostrils flaring? Do you have to open those lips to be able to get air? I'm looking for a struggle, because if you can't do it, then Houston, we definitely have a problem. So if you can't complete the 10 nasal breaths, then that is a problem. There is either a physical reason or you have so much congestion that it's impossible for you to do it. So that's when we have to dig a little bit deeper to figure out why you cannot nasal breathe comfortably. So like I said, step 1 is determining if you can or can't. So step 2 is if you can't nasal breathe. So this is going to be what I call building your comprehensive health team. When I have a client who cannot demonstrate the breathing and they do not have patent nasal passages, I will refer them to an ENT for soft tissue evaluation. So this is going to be looking at the soft tissue, the nose, the tonsils, the adenoids, all of that stuff. Potentially you have something like a deviated septum, you can have swollen nasal turbinates, enlarged tonsils or adenoids, polyps, you can have another rare condition. Anything that prevents that air from comfortably going in through the nose and into your lungs is going to be a concern for my clients. Once we have that ENT piece of the puzzle, then I might send you to an allergist that can help us with allergies that might be causing you problems. I don't necessarily want my clients to medicate, but sometimes, first of all, we have to identify what's a problem, and then sometimes we might have to at least take a medication at the beginning to help with that congestion so that we can get you kicked out of that vicious mouth breathing cycle. Okay, and step number 3, if you can nasal breathe, but you just aren't, so you have that habit, or maybe it's just not your comfortable norm, this is very likely because of an open mouth resting oral posture. There's some ways that you can also be contributing to this problem. So many of my clients will say, Carmen, I don't breathe very well, but dairy bothers me. So things that cause you congestion, sometimes this is seasonal allergies, it can be environmental, and it can be food, but it also can be things like if you're allergic or sensitive to a pet and they sleep on your pillow at night, that can be causing chronic congestion, which is going to make it really difficult for me to help you learn how to nasal breathe. So in that case, it's not necessarily that I'll be saying you have to get rid of your animal, but sometimes just changing up your habits is going to make your breathing and sleeping conditions a lot more conducive to nasal breathing. So what I would like you to do if you have questions about your breathing, if you comfortably are a nasal breather, then that's not an area that you have a concern. But if you're trying to get this breathing thing figured out, I invite you to download my free breathing assessment guide. Do the test, take the steps, write down the information, and then it's time to take some action. So on this guide, you'll have some spaces to do some journaling and write some stuff down so that when you do contact a myofunctional therapist, you will be able to say, hey, I demonstrated this breathing exercise, I had difficulties in these areas, and here's what I noticed. That's really helpful for us as myofunctional therapists when you have some cognizance of what is going wrong or what is a concern to you. All right, so whether or not you are grabbing that breathing assessment guide, more importantly, I'm glad that I was able to help you understand these 3 steps so that you can start figuring out if you have breathing concerns and whether you have a physical barrier or just a habit barrier, basically, is how I call that. Thank you for watching this video, and I look forward to seeing you in the next episode of the Myo Minute. Bye for now.